Is where tradition never dies. This is your radio, K-Man.
Oh, I think they're doing a great job. A lot of them are.
Good afternoon, Dwayne. How are you?
Not too bad, sir.
Ladies and gentlemen,
Radio K-Man's Talk Today with Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
But I do have some questions.
there are more questions than answers.
Radio K-Man's Talk Today. If you're ready to talk, we're willing to listen.
Well, I really enjoy this program today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
May God bless every person.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome. Thank you for joining us here on this truly terrific Thursday's edition of Talk Today. And we start things off with the excellent company of Miss Elke Fuhrer. We're going to get into a lot of things, and some of it will leave you not only pensive, but I think provoked to action. So stay tuned for Talk Today.
Talk Today is brought to you by Fidelity Bank. For all your banking needs, visit fidelitygroup.com. Fidelity, we're good for you.
Radio Cayman's Talk Today, the Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program. We ask our listeners to avoid statements or comments which are abusive, derogatory, malicious, or defamatory. Do not use any indecent language or make any statement which is false or misleading. Email talktoday@candw.ky or call 1-800-534-8255. Courtesy of Flow.
Cayman's #1 network that connects you to your world like never before.
Let your voice be heard. Once again, here's your host, Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome back. Thank you so much for joining us, and I'm honored to be able to share with Miss Elke Fuhrer today. And as we get into our discussion, I must say it struck me at the beginning, thinking there are some things that weigh heavily on you. There are some things that are challenging to talk about. But as we get there, could I start things off on a more positive note and just welcome you, be inspired by your, this wonderful gifting of writing. Being an author must be fascinating.
It is. I love it. I really do. And thank you, Dwayne, for such a warm welcome. I really enjoy visiting Cayman and always coming here on the station and just chatting with you. We always have fun conversation, but as well as, passionate things that are just, important to us. So that's always a nice mix.
But thank you for sharing that. And as Ms. Elke shared, we're going to get into a discussion that I'm hopeful, especially in the summers, especially the fact that we're going to see our children off to universities for their first time. Maybe they're going for the last year. Maybe they're going to be entering their postgraduate studies, whatever the case is. Maybe it's boarding school, but maybe they're changing and going into high school, for argument's sake, or even to middle school. But it's a transition, and summers can provide so much opportunity. But sadly, a lot of things happen that are not always positive. We're on traveling on vacation, we let our guards down, things happen. And, having you share with us now may make us cognizant of what it's like. So we'll get to that in a second. And as I dance around it, we'll be able to talk about sex trafficking and human trafficking and the exposure of our youth to those things and how we can sometimes be oblivious to what's unfolding, not just in our neighborhood sometimes, but right next door and in the region and the like.
Yeah.
So, but for that, could I start off first? I mean, I've always enjoyed reading. For those who haven't yet got a chance, two things. One, how do we follow you? I mean, back in my day, following somebody, you probably got called all kind of bad names. Nowadays, you don't follow them, you're lost, right?
Yeah.
So how do we keep up with what you're doing?
Yeah, sure. You can find me at my website, www.elkefuhrer.com, and that'll share with you how to buy my books and a little bit about me, how I got into writing. And that website also has information about what I do as a writing strategist, which is something that I'm also equally passionate about, which is helping other writers achieve their own writing dream. And so that's where they can find me. If they're just interested in the writing aspect, the help of writing, you can find me at www.kwriters.com. I'm also on social media. You can't escape it.
Oh, I try.
I know you do.
Quite successfully.
Yes. I'm on Facebook. Just search Elke Fewer or K Writers and you will find me. I also have a support group there, K Writers Writing Group, for those who want to just connect with other writers, whether they're here in Cayman or in the States. So you can find me there. I'm on Instagram, LinkedIn, you name it, I'm there.
It's so much to manage, man. I'm going to get a support group for those of us who are anti-social media. How do we cope with that? And we joke and we jest, but we see organizations now hiring people to specifically manage the social media platforms and to keep abreast of all the things. And sometimes, they may not be necessarily complimented in this way, but sometimes they just make sure that the narrative goes a certain way.
Absolutely.
At least, not just in the political realm, but it probably happens in the corporate as well.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure.
It's all messaging, they tell me.
Absolutely.
Now, from that perspective, though, your books to date, I know there are many. They're excellent. Quick recount of some of your books. I mean, you can do them in chronological order if you want, but if not, just go ahead.
Okay, my first book was For the Love of Jazz. Yeah, I think that's everybody's favorite, and it's kind of mine too because it was my first quote-unquote baby, so to speak. And that one was set in Chicago, and that one was traditionally published. And then I really wanted to write stories that were set here in Cayman. And that's when I wrote the Deadly series. There's 3 books so far in the series. The first one, which was Deadly Bloodlines. The second was Deadly Race. And the third that I just published was in October of last year, was Deadly Family, which ironically, well, not ironic, but actually touches on the subject that we were talking about, which is human trafficking, some of the challenges that we face here in Cayman ourselves. And it was really just a topic that I was very passionate about, that I really wanted to include in the book. And I think a lot of people haven't given me feedback on that book because I think it's either really difficult to read because some of the scenes were emotional for me to write. Yeah. So I can imagine, it wasn't quite as fun-loving as some of the other books. But like I said, it was just one of those books that I had to write because it was something that I was passionate about.
Now, I hope that many of us in our homes, not just leaving it to our schools, are encouraging the love of reading. For me, I just love it. I wish I was better and faster, but hey, practice.
Absolutely.
And to be able to connect to the author, I keep saying it's too easy for us to take for granted the fact that this was our classmate, this was our friend's child, this was our neighbor, the street over, what have you, right? And then to read sometimes, like you have, stories that gives us a imagery of a little area that we like. There may be some changes and the like, but they're going down 7 Mile Beach, we can relate to that. They're in the center of town and there's a town clock. Yeah. We can relate to that. Just like you would if you were reading some historical account of old Charleston, for instance, or even Dickens and London of past, right? Oh,
yeah, absolutely. That was one of the reasons for me why I wanted to write about Cayman because, there's so many things about the island that I love. Like when I first got here and went to the supermarket, like somebody I didn't even know was like, "Good morning," and I'm like, "Good morning," because when I first moved to the States, it would I lived in this complex, and I would walk my son to school, and I would be waving and saying good morning to people, and they're looking at me like I'm a crazy person, but that's what you're used to. And, luckily where I'm at is a smaller community now, and there's, it's more closer to that kind of connection. But, that was just like, oh, I miss that. And just driving, I had somebody tell me that, oh, yeah, I thought I saw you in a rent-a-car. I mean, where else in the world can you get that, right? Oh. So those are some of the things that I love about Cayman, to be honest.
And sadly, those are the things that if we don't champion, if we lose, it's going to take away from the value that we have, not just as a tourist destination, but as a great place to live, to attract the best talent and the like.
Absolutely.
It seems that we're hell-bent on destroying it, but anyway, different story, different
Oh, yeah.
And it's amazing. But you know what? It's a Thursday, and other than you and I, my mother, probably the West listening, right? So we'll see what happens.
Well, let's hope some people are listening to me.
Well, my brother tells me, he says, boy, why complain? Who listening can't help, who can help not listening? So
that's it.
Now, why I wanted to chat with you, and certainly want to get into some of the work that you're doing relative to this idea of, looking at the vulnerabilities and the more vulnerable in our society and how it's relevant to Cayman. But through your writing, whether you're encouraging, would-be authors, whether you're strategically helping people to position certain things, the notion that in writing we can not just communicate, but we can convey certain things. And images are powerful, but words, wow.
Yeah.
They're incredible.
Yeah, absolutely. And, it's kind of the one great thing about writing is that you kind of get the both of best worlds, because you can, usually if you get an imagery, you have one way that you're looking at it, whereas when it's written, you can create your own imagery, and everybody's imagery is going to be different, but then you get that greatness with the words as well, too.
And that's the thing, we look at technical, let's say instructions, for instance, how to assemble something. And it's not, even if it's written obviously by someone and it's been translated and maybe English wasn't their first thing, so it's not even that. It's specific. If they don't tell you to take, the hex nut with the appropriate tool and insert into, figure A or whatever it is, you need to understand first what they're saying, and it's challenging. Yeah. You take a picture, here, this is what you do. It's too easy sometimes. A video even easier. Writing, there's skill, there's imagery, it's imaginative, it evokes certain things,
No, absolutely. And, it's definitely challenging because everybody interprets things differently, even more so with writing than with something visual, for sure.
Yeah. I mean, we look at, and I probably, was it homophones and all the different language that we have about what words, but just if you forget what they are technically, and just recognizing that if you look at one word, minute or minute, it's the same letters in the same sequence, but two different spellings, right? And in this case, the same, two different pronunciations, two different meanings. But wow, how important it is if we don't understand how to communicate, right?
Oh, absolutely.
All right, we're going to take our first break. When we come back, can we talk a little bit more about it? Can we also quickly talk about get into what I think is challenging? I need to warm up to the topic, because it is disheartening. So a disclaimer, we won't be graphic, but it certainly should strike a chord with us, and we should be cognizant that we here in Cayman could be at risk. Like, if you're going to lead the discussion?
Absolutely.
All right. 949-8837, 1-800-534-8255. Of course, the Flow toll-free line is available. So stay tuned for Talk Today.
A caring and community spirit, cherished family and cultural values. These are some of the things that still embodies the Caymanian way of life in the Eastern Districts today. Savannah Pharmacy, your neighborhood pharmacy, located in Countryside Shopping Village, is delighted to offer products and services of real value. Whether it's catering to your family's medical needs or carrying apparel, gifts, and beauty products, Savannah Pharmacy provides you with more than just prescriptions. Remember, they're always just around the corner with everything your family needs and convenient opening hours, including Sundays and holidays. Savannah Pharmacy. For more information, call 946-3336.
CUC advises customers on Bimini Drive off Shamrock Road in the Grand Harbor area that they will experience interruptions to their electrical service on Sunday, August 4th, between 7 a.m. and 1 p.m. Areas affected include all residential customers on Bimini Drive and commercial customers in the Hurley's supermarket complex. Motorists are asked to drive with caution when in Grand Harbor, as CUC will have a number of trucks and personnel in the area. CUC apologizes for this interruption, which is necessary to facilitate required overhead infrastructure upgrades to provide our customers with safe, reliable, and efficient power. For more information on the outage, please contact CUC's customer service team at 949-5200 or email service@cuc.ky.
Looking for a new car? We can give you a zillion reasons to switch to electric. They cost you less to run. They helps to save the planet. They are free charging stations all across Grand Cayman. Low maintenance needs. They're quiet both inside and out. And they're the future. But most of all, the government has reduced custom duties on electric cars. For cars valued below $30,000, you now don't have to pay anything. Visit the Ministry of Commerce Planning and Infrastructure Facebook page for more information on electric cars.
Under the distinguished patronage of the Honorary Jamaican Consul, JN Money, in association with Michelle T. and friends, present Jamaica 57th Independence Gospel Fest, Sunday, August 4th at the Lion Center. Celebrate with Sandra Brooks, Prodigal Son, Chosen, Kevin He, Preaching Policeman, Laverne Welcome, Women of Purpose, and Michelle T. Also, Roderick Brown, Light of the World Dance Ministry, and many others. Delicious Helsha-style fish and more. Breakfast from 8 a.m., followed by lunch and dinner. $25 pre-sold, $30 at the gate. Tickets at Funky Tangs, Mango Tree, Fix-It Celtronics, Mac Russ, J&M Electronics, Famous Restaurant, Angel Supplies, and JN Money. Sponsors Realwood Cabinets, Superior Auto and Sensual, Fix-It Celtronics, M Creations, Caymanian Times, Hot 104, The Voice, Praise FM, Breeze FM, and Radio Cayman. Jamaica 57th Gospel Fest with Michelle T. and friends. MC Basilia Barnaby Cuff at the Lion Center, Sunday, August 4th at 6 in the evening.
Talk today. But I do have some questions.
Talk today. Cayman Islands' foremost listeners' participation program. Talk today. Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon, and welcome back to Talk Today, 949-8837 or 949-6990. Likewise, please use our Flow toll-free line, 1-800-534-8255. As we now have a chance to continue speaking, I just don't want to say author, because that label in itself is insufficient to describe such an incredible lady. But Miss Elke, when I look at your published works, but also not just the acumen, but that desire, that drive, that sense of being motivated by life itself, inspires, and that's what I enjoy having you here.
Thank you so much.
Wonderful,
Dwayne.
wonderful.
Thank you.
When we look at Cayman, for instance, and summers I think are great. I say this not so much as a political statement in the sense of anything other than it's a recognition of the reality. I keep saying that September, that month is so pivotal in our lives. And not just historically when the big hurricanes come and go, even just the recent ones, but transitioning, schools, starting school, when the men were at sea, probably shipping out, when you miss them. And so if we're going to celebrate our people, September is the time, in my mind, personally, right? That's just, I've always believed that. And when we think of families now over the summer going off, some are going to pick places where they think are family friendly and safe. Some are going to take their children places where, listen, we're now going to a big city. In this space, there's 100,000 people. So you can't turn your back. You got to stay here. I've had families, not just Caymanians, but families who have been resident here for a while, who say they take their children and they tether themselves, literally. Husband, wife, son, daughter, sometimes dog. They tether themselves. So that, because they're walking along. Now, maybe they've had experiences, maybe they've been over the council, but maybe they're just wise. And even that sometimes is not safe enough.
No, absolutely. I think when I took my son to the States for the first time, he was 3. And I say this cautiously, but I lost him in Best Buy. Because my husband, I was going to the bathroom. I said, "Oh, can you watch him for me? I'm just going here to check." And I come back, and he didn't realize that's what I said. And then next thing I know, I turned around, and he's not there. I'm like, wow. And luckily, it was a Best Buy, and not like Walmart or someplace bigger. But that in that moment, it was terrifying. It made me realize that I needed to not only be cautious myself, but teach him what to do, what not to do.
Him being the son.
My son.
And a husband.
Yeah, right.
Sorry, I shouldn't.
No. No, I was talking about my son.
I know.
Yeah. Because, we think, they're too young to understand whatever. But no, the sooner you start them realizing, whether it's learning your phone number or what not to do, where to go, that kind of stuff, it's really, really important because, you never know who's watching, waiting to kind of swoop in. It's scary nowadays, especially. So that's, one way as well, too, in addition to, like you said, tethering yourself, like here. I mean, as he got older, being able to go to the bathroom on his own, it was kind of like, no, in the States, it's like, But he's like, Mom, I'm 7 years old. I'm like, I'm sorry, you're going with your dad. Or I'm camping outside the bathroom. It's like, you can't. It's because in Cayman, you don't even think.
But you would think, right? You could at one point.
Yeah.
Now, it should be. It should be that way here.
Yeah.
And the notion that we go sometimes to the same place, so we become comfortable with it. Oh, I've always been in there. That's okay. And it probably is.
Yeah.
But people come and go. And things transpire.
Yeah.
And as you're going to share with us now, some of us still go to, I call it Miami, even though it probably goes further out than that sometimes. And you're up in Jacksonville. So, I was in Miami. No, you were in Jacksonville. That's on the other end. But we still, Cayman flies into Miami or Tampa. We'll still call it Miami, all in one and the same. And we know these places. But are we truly cognizant of what is happening? Maybe through the news media, or the television, otherwise now we're seeing more and more that. But are we really aware of what's happening?
No, absolutely. Because when we first moved to Florida, one of the things that terrified me that probably a lot of people don't know is Florida is actually one of the number one places known for human trafficking, kids being kidnapped, that kind of stuff, to move into human trafficking. And that is a terrifying thought. Yeah. And it was just, okay, how can I prepare my family? How can I prepare my kids? How can I prepare myself? And, those were just steps that I had to take and things that I had to think about. And it really got me thinking that, what can I do not only for my kids, but,
for yourself.
For myself and, just not for myself, but for others as well, too. Because, for me, I've always wanted to work with kids. And, as I've volunteered, I've realized, like, how really blessed a childhood I had, and how sheltered I really was. I mean, not to say that there aren't
protected.
Exactly, and not to say that people haven't gone through some tragedies here in Cayman. Trust me, I know that. Yeah. But as I kind of started getting involved in volunteering and getting to know these kids and realizing what their home life was like, and that some of the situations that they were in, it really made me realize. Like, I called my mother up, like the first person or student that I learned about, and I called my mother up, and I'm just like, thank you for,
Well, that's the one of the things I enjoyed when Mr. Desmond Seals was published in the Net News, almost weekly daily, on a very regular basis. On the front page, he profiled the people who were living and working in the Cayman, the different nationalities, and invariably, there was a comment, the best place in the world to raise a family. These are people who come from very big cities, very wonderful countries, but the beauty of Cayman. And now to know some of these people and for them to share that, it's still a great place, the best place to raise a family. And when they leave and go back to their country of birth, or they go vacation elsewhere, how they become more cautious. Not to say that we shouldn't be cognizant and cautious here.
Right.
Not just at the beach or they're around a pool, but just the fact that things can happen no matter where you are.
Absolutely.
But we take that for granted. We go to Florida. You just said that Florida is that sort of almost at the crossroads. How many of us actually realize that? Realize that the amount of drug addiction, drug abuse, and not just the proliferation of drugs, but the creation of designer drugs that take place, and the epidemics and the experiments, as I see in some cases, right there. We become so comfortable going to Florida that we don't see it anymore. How many of our families are there? We've gone to school there.
Yeah.
We hop a Cayman flight for a weekend shopping trip there, or just to get away to whichever, right? Not realizing the dangers that lie ahead.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the thing is, too, when we go, we're going as tourists. So you see a different picture, whereas, you turn down the next road and it's a completely different situation. And people that actually live there and what they're actually going through. But just to tell you a little bit about how I got involved in it, I was volunteering. I met a lady who was volunteering with this particular program. It's a non-for-profit, and it's called Grace Place School.
Grace Place School. Okay.
And basically what they do, they help at-risk kids. And when I say at-risk, I mean at-risk for whether it's human trafficking or just a very dangerous lifestyle, selling drugs, things like that, because of the community that they're in, or their home lives, or even family members that perhaps are involved in that and getting them in that. And the ages 13 to 18 are usually the ones that we cater to.
Wow.
And and what the program is that I absolutely loved, and I actually talked a little bit about it when I was here last year for Rotary, is because I thought certain aspects of it would be just a good fit for the kids here in Cayman. And one of the things, two main parts of it is the academic program, which is, not everybody's built for public school. And we actually help them get their degree. It's like a homeschool program, but it's at a facility. So we help them in that regard. So they get their high school diploma. We help them getting into college, those kind of things, whereas normally they don't have family or whatever that can help them do that. And we help them to be able to get into college. I mean, there's, just to give you an example of a couple of students that I had, there was one girl, or two girls actually, who were, one was 18 one was 17, one was 18. And what is so amazing but disheartening at the same time is that, one of the girls, she was like, just talking with her and getting to know her, she could speak 3 languages. And she acted like that was no big deal. Yeah. And it's like, and I'm like, are you kidding me? I can't even barely speak 1 language, and you're talking about you speak 3 languages? I said, don't discredit your value and I think the self-esteem. Self-esteem. And I think that's something that I think is universal for all kids, all people, but kids especially in that age. And I think that that's how they get targeted, because they're getting that attention and they're getting somebody who's seemingly valuing them. So that's one of the things we try to do, is instill that self-confidence and helping them to see that they do have worth, and I think that's one big thing that I think would be really beneficial for any kids. And then the second one, she actually was pregnant, but she finished the program, got her high school degree, she has a job, and she's also enrolled in college. And we were able to do that in a school year. And she, even though she had, gone through this process, it wasn't the end of her life. And a lot of kids that, you have one kid and the next kid and the next kid, but, you can have a life. Yeah. You can still finish, your degree. It doesn't mean that you're any less because you've had this situation. And I think, that's another thing that was just really amazing, to just help them to see that,
But even that aspect of, excuse me, the notion that a teenager, and for some reason, we only seem to look at the young lady.
Yes.
Unless this thing happened, and I'm not quite sure. Yeah. History's going to happen one time.
Right.
But there had to be a male partner somewhere, right?
Yeah.
But that aside, even if that's the issue, we could borrow from that. What can we do in our community?
Absolutely.
To help these young ladies to realize that their life is just now improving.
Yes.
If they're being coached, nurtured, mentored, given the guidance, the assistance that they need.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I think that's one of the things for me that I always used to say when I was here. Do you want to invest now, or do you want to pay later? Yeah. Do you want to invest in your youth? Yeah, it costs money for these programs and helping them, giving them the extra support they need in school or with, the homes or whatever it is. It costs money to do those things. But it's either you pay now or you're going to have to build bigger prisons, because that,
but And for those listening, jump in for 2 reasons. Excuse me. One, hey, he's getting political. Don't do that. Your job's at stake.
Yeah.
No, you go ahead. I'm not going to shy away.
Okay.
All right?
Well, I don't want to do that either.
No. I don't think we are, right?
No.
We'll be talking about socioeconomic concerns. Label it that way. But secondly, think about it. If you don't think it's relevant, if you don't think it's important, or if you do, jump in, because we can't leave it for them, whoever they are. This is us. And this is where I say it may be a political statement. So many of us in Cayman, but we know that perhaps in the U.S. in particular, if we're exposed to it, we're looking at, in the Cayman context, it's $60,000, $70,000 to house one prisoner for the year. We give $20,000 for a scholarship, or we provide $10,000, whatever the sum is, right?
Yeah.
But think about it, as you said, pay now or pay later.
Absolutely.
Right? Invest now, or you got to pay significantly more later.
Absolutely.
And it's not just the money; it's that loss of productivity. It's that loss of that life.
That's
and
it.
that's the value.
Yes, and these are the future people of our country.
Yeah.
You know, if we don't nurture them, then, you know, what is gonna be our future, basically.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so as I listen to you, I want to hear more about the program. So I just went online. I won't endeavor to try to listen to you and look at the online stuff.
Right.
But it's graceplaceschool.org.
Yes, that's correct.
So I know you guys out there are much more adept at being able to navigate multiple things at one time. I'm a guy. We focus on one thing. We one track mind. We pay attention on one thing. We do that. We do something else. So during the break, graceplaceschool.org, have a quick look. We're using that as a basis to look at this notion of human trafficking, which I think is a misnomer. But sex trafficking, the vulnerability of our young people, how is that relevant to us here as we travel to Florida, but even in Cayman, what we can. Elke Fuhr sits with us. I'm always encouraged by her. So stay tuned for Talk Today.
Sometimes things just don't go as planned. That's why you need Contractors All Risk Insurance from Fidelity Insurance Brokers. Ensure you're covered in the event of property damage and third-party injury or damage claims during your construction projects. And with Fidelity Insurance Brokers, you can be sure you are getting competitive pricing and superior customer service. Call us today for a free quote. Fidelity, we're good for you.
There are plenty of reasons to be a Logic customer. There's lightning-fast internet connectivity. There's the great overall customer experience. And now, you can improve your Wi-Fi connectivity with Logic Boost Wi-Fi for free. With Boost, you can extend your freedom to stream, game, and download seamlessly anywhere in your home, like your patio or your underground lair if you have one. Sign up now for any Logic Bundle package and get free Boost Wi-Fi for a limited time. Visit logic.ky for details.
The best back-to-school sale is now at Reflections. Buy one, get one half price on all back-to-school shoes. Over 100 styles of your favorite brands. Nike, Adidas, Puma, Reebok, and more. Back-to-school savings on shoes for toddlers, children, teens, and adults. Buy one pair, get the second pair half price. Or buy one pair of shoes and get a backpack half priced. The best back-to-school sale at Reflections. Now located on Shedden Road, across from Napa Auto Parts. Beside Mango Tree. Reflections.
JN Money Transfer, in association with Roma United Sports Club, present the official Jamaica Independence celebrations on Friday, August 2nd. Daytime activities take place on Cardinal Avenue from 7 a.m. to 3 p.m. with the best Jamaican food, arts and craft display, free sampling, and free health checks. Don't miss the free lunch hour concert, plus lots of prizes and giveaways. Nighttime concert over at Crown Square on Eastern Avenue, featuring international reggae and dancehall superstar Wayne Marshall, alongside Paul Train, Dream Chasers dancers, plus lots of local performers.
Listen to Radio Cayman this Friday from 10 a.m. until 12 noon as we broadcast live from Cardinal Avenue during the day's session of the official Jamaica Independence Celebration. 89.9 FM Grand Cayman and 93.9 FM Cayman Brac and Little Cayman is where you need to be.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners' participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome back to Talk Today. Invite you to join us as you probably looking at YouTube and that thing, the screen. Well, if you do, asking the cameraman to zoom in, keep the camera trained on my guest, Ms. Elke Fuhr. Don't look at the host. Nope. That's another part of leveraging the technology, and it's probably par for the course.
Absolutely.
I'll complain about it all day long. I don't know why. But I'm glad that you're here, and I recognize that the topic can be challenging for many of us to listen to, to talk about. But it's a reality. We look at, and sometimes it's Eastern Europe, but Europe in particular, we look at transition points, whether in the Netherlands or other places, container load of people being moved, and we say human trafficking, refugees. But sometimes we don't see that these are people who are going to end up as, is the word sex slaves, who are going to be tortured, who are going to be sold into, I mean, this is the 21st century.
Things that we can't even begin to imagine.
Yeah.
I mean, just watching some of because we did presentation videos to the kids just so that they understand sort of how it starts to where they could end up, just so that they get the seriousness
Yeah.
of it, you know. And even for me, you know in your mind, but when you see and you talk to the victims, you see how easily it can happen.
Would you be willing to help us? Because I think something that we talked about earlier, and I think we recognize in Cayman, but we skirted. Cayman's a bubble, right? A lot of foreign nationals who are my friends who come here and live, and they love it. They take their children to wherever, and they run around, and they don't have to keep that close a watch on them.
Right.
Whether that should be how it is everywhere, that here, different question. And yet, when we send our children away to school, or to travel, or they become young adults and they're independent, they're on their own, they earn their own money, they can still become a victim, whether they're 15 or 55.
Absolutely.
Because if you're not exposed. So that, how do we break that up? How do we prepare our children? How do we recognize that in Cayman, this thing that is transpiring, Cayman is 1 hour flight away, could also be happening right here in that neighborhood that we see as affluent, or that neighborhood that we see as transitional.
Well, I think the most important thing is just really not being afraid to, you know, have those difficult talks with your kids. I think that's really important, because sometimes we think, oh, not my child, so you don't think you need to have that conversation. Or you think, oh, it's too uncomfortable a conversation to have. When the truth is that you need to have that difficult talk with them, to make them aware that, you know, these things happen. Here's how it can happen, even with people that you think you know and that you trust. Or how it can happen with people that you don't know, and how to be aware of your surroundings. I mean, even something simple like, you know, we're on that phone all the time, you know what I mean? And you walk into your car. Like for me personally, I always make sure if I'm going to my car, whether it's bright daylight or at night, I'm never on my phone when I'm heading to my car. Never.
Now, let me ask that. And I'm not going to get into safety precautions to offer advice, right? But I will reach out to some people who do. I've been told that if you're walking, so usually they say it's a lady, but I think gentlemen play to you as well. So you left work, you're parking, and you're walking across the parking lot, covered parking or not. They say get on your phone and talk to your friend, all right? Now, that may or may not be, but if you do or not, still be conscious of what's around you. Be looking about, be scanning the place.
Absolutely.
Right? Simple things that we don't seem to do anymore.
No.
All right. Let me ask you then, from the context of the Cayman, in preparing for this, I just briefly reached out to a couple of people just to ask two things. What was their perception relative to people being drugged? And I'll use the phrase date rape. No, that to me is just a foolish word. Right? It's so disrespectful but people being raped and then because they were in company and somebody at the bar, somebody who served them a drink, somebody who's sitting next to them, somebody stepping by in Cayman. And then to what extent, you know, do you think that happens here? And surprisingly, of the people that asked, not that many, they say, you know, you'd be surprised how prevalent this thing has happened. Someone's out having a drink with friends, and the company of the friends seems safe, but somebody gets sick or feels a little weird when they're driving home or when they're leaving, and they're thinking, that drink was off. And a few, actually 3, said, well, you know, they're convinced that something happened to them. And I thought, wow, and this is in the Cayman context. How often is it in the media? How often is it reported? Is it even something that people feel comfortable reporting?
And I think that's the disadvantage sometimes of being in a small community. There's less tendency to be more open because it might be somebody you know, or it's not.
But the stigma to you as well.
It's not good news, you know, or the right news. And I think it's a shame because it's almost like it's allowing those people to continue to do it.
All right. In this notion of sex trafficking and the other destructive lifestyles that you talk about, the volunteering through Grace Place School, it's not just that we're sending our children off to universities, whether in the US or Canada or the UK or wherever, but we travel. Sometimes young adults, hey, let's get together and go watch a sporting event, or let's go hang out because they'll get off the rock, whatever they say. And they're out. And these are, you know, young 20-something, maybe 30-somethings or whatever they are, professionals, unaware of the dangers because they think they're in this grouping. They could fall prey as well.
Oh, absolutely. I know I saw a video of someone who was with a group of friends, and she had her, drink. She wasn't in a bar. She wasn't, she had her own drink. And she turned for a second. Somebody walked past and dropped something in her drink.
I actually, in sort of preparing, I was speaking to a couple of individuals, so students at the local colleges here and others, and they showed me a video when you said that. Lady and some friends were having a chat. I call it a cocktail function, but they're having a chat somewhere about. Yeah. And someone came up to the group, it was 3 of them, and said something. Couldn't hear what it was. Right. And they turned, and then behind them, the drink. So they were being distracted while this accomplice tossed something into the drink, and you could see it. And I thought, well, is that a real video, or is it just designed to show you what could happen? But and I didn't know it, but it's possible.
Absolutely. I think, it's it's a shame that those kind of things happen. And I even saw a video as well, too, with this lady who was out with a friend, a guy friend, who she'd known for over a year, thought she could trust him. She went to the bathroom, and he put something in her water, and luckily the waiter there made her aware of it. Wow. And she was shocked. She's like, this is somebody that I've known for a year. So it's like it's almost like you don't even know who you can trust, and that's really, really scary. And it's not just, I'm sure it's not just women. I mean, men are at risk as well, too. Right. And you probably hear about those cases even less because of the, embarrassment and things like that. Because one of the things that I learned, with the programs that I work with is that boys are just as equally at risk as women, or as the girls. Yeah, I want to ask you about the program and specifically some of the sort of presentations and the like. Even the statistics, whatever you wish to share. Yeah. But as you were talking, I'm thinking too of instances where, again, speaking to these individuals preparing, they said, one of them said part of her training that she had was that you'll be at somewhere and someone will come up. In this case, the perpetrator is a guy. He comes up and he's all aggressive and whichever. Then another guy, knight in shining armor comes and he's going to rescue you when the two of them are in cahoots. Yep. And you think, oh, I'm safe. Thank you for their kind knight for helping me out. And that you have to be aware of either as well. Oh, yeah. Now, with all that in place, sometimes we wonder, how safe is it? What can we do to be safe? What is the world like? All right, we know that the news is there, but when we come back, talk more about your volunteer work at Grace Bay School. Okay. Tell us about some of the presentations. Sure. And maybe how we can be safe and cognizant of the whole issue of sex trafficking and the like. Absolutely. All right, 949-8037 or toll free at 1-800-534-8255. Please join us after the break.
From district to district, moving through the waters to Cayman Brac and Little Cayman. Your station, your voice. All things Cayman. One radio, many people. This is home.
Radio Cayman in the Cayman Islands.
Radio Cayman. Radio Cayman's newsroom. These are the biggest stories right now.
Mr. Athelstan C.E. Long, CBE, the Cayman Islands' first governor, passed away last night. He celebrated his 100th birthday back in January. The acting governor of the Cayman Islands, His Excellency Franz Mandison, has asked that effective immediately, the Cayman Islands' national flags, the Union flag and Cayman flag, be flown at half-mast on all government buildings today. Good afternoon, I'm Dion Anglin with your headlines. In news elsewhere, Rwanda has reopened its border with the Democratic Republic of Congo, where an Ebola outbreak has killed more than 1,800 people in the past year. The border was closed for several hours after the confirmation of a third death from Ebola in the Congolese city of Goma. At least 2,700 people have been infected in the worst Ebola outbreak in the country's history. The Bank of England has cut its forecast for UK growth over the next 2 years. It also warned that a no-deal Brexit would hit the economy and trigger a further drop in the value of the pound. The bank left interest rates unchanged at 0.75% against a backdrop of weaker global growth and ongoing trade tensions between the US and China. And parents have reacted angrily to a decision by Italy's top court, which states that the right to eat packed lunches in schools is not unconditional. Italy's Supreme Court said schools should have the autonomy to decide if children are allowed to eat packed lunches on school grounds. A lower court previously ruled in favor of a group of Turin parents who wanted to opt out of school meals. Parents say school meals are too costly. That's a wrap of your headlines. I'm Dion Anglin.
Radio Cayman, the voice of the Cayman Islands.
What's happening in your community? News and information, music and more. You can find us. www.radiocayman.gov.ky. Like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter. Radio Cayman is your choice, your voice for today's biggest news. Radio Cayman.
Radio Cayman would like to encourage you during this hurricane season to be prepared by stocking your pantry with extra non-perishable foods that can be eaten without cooking. Remember to put your refrigerator and freezer on the coldest setting to avoid the least amount of food spoilage. Save fruits from your fruit trees, including coconuts and vegetables from your garden. This hurricane advice was brought to you by Radio Cayman, your caring community radio station.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome back to Talk Today. In the studio, Ms. Elke Fuhr joins us. And Elke, as I, not only appreciate what you were sharing and as I was preparing for it, I thought there are certain things that make us uncomfortable. And unfortunately, it's too easy for us to, I don't want to deal with that. But this notion of sex trafficking and the idea that in Cayman, it could be happening here. I'm not saying that it is or it isn't.
Right.
But we know two things. Some of us leave Cayman at some point to go away for something.
Yeah.
And people from elsewhere come here. So the probability that there's potential risk is evident.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, one way to look at it is if you can get drugs here in Cayman, I'm sure that you can pretty much get anything that you want.
Right. And do you think then that our populace in particular is consciously aware, are trying to do things to make themselves safer, to talk to their children? Because this isn't the wild sort of rampant thing that you see everywhere.
No.
It's not the episode of Taken or what have you. Is that part of the challenge, that we're not making our children informed of these things?
I would say probably yes, because like I said, you're in Cayman, you think, oh, I don't have to think about that. But it's not even just about being here. It's just about preparing them for wherever they go. Because, as much as we say that, oh, kids don't listen to us or they act like they don't listen, the truth is they really do. And that once you plant that seed and get them thinking and make them aware, then they might find themselves in a situation and think, oh, yeah, I remember Mommy and Daddy told me this. I should be aware of this. So I think that is important to just at least plant those seeds. We
had a series of discussions over almost a year, with the sort of Protection Starts Here initiative, and through the efforts of the Red Cross, for instance, we can see that it's the onus is on us as a community to provide a safe place. But we need to have these conversations. We need to be able to talk openly, with appropriate, language to the age, so that they can aware. The 3-year-old, if you're away, the 7-year-old who wants to go because, hey, I feel independent. The 13-year-old, the 18-year-old, even at 25-year-old, who is now an adult, can finally rent a car with underage fees. But you can still be vulnerable in so many ways, right?
Absolutely.
Can I ask then, from the perspective of just your experience, but also what you've witnessed and the like, I look at our young people, or I look at the generations today and the things that unfold. We're meeting people online. We're becoming fast friends, as it were. You go to a get-together. I don't know what people do these days. Is it a barbecue? Is it a coffee shop? I'm not sure. And 5 minutes later, oh, this is my friend. My friend? No, that's not a word I say lightly. I just met you 3 months ago. I don't know I know you yet. But for some of our people, oh, yeah, we're friends. How long do you know you? I know him 3 weeks. 3 weeks is a long time, eh?
Yeah.
Is it? I mean,
well, I think we have to recognize too that times are changing. Our idea of, you know, friends and what that means to be a friend is completely different. I guess I'm fortunate that my son, he's a bit like me. Yeah, he's friendly, but his group of friends is very small. My daughter, on the other hand, she's social butterfly, and, you know, she got
like
this
mom.
new friend. Yeah. So it's, you know, I think that's something you have to recognize as well, too, that, you know, times are changing and that it's still important that we talk to them and maybe just rather than just saying, well, you know, they're not your friend, I don't think you should do that or whatever, is to maybe just put it in a context that they can, that's relevant for them in the sense that, you know, what kind of friend are they? Ask them questions, get them thinking. I think is really important rather because, you know, as parents, we have a tendency to be like, well, back in my day, that wasn't how we did friendships, you know, and I'm guilty.
Yeah, no.
Trust me. And I think is maybe just recognizing that it is a different time and getting them to think about, you know, when you meet people online, what does a friendship and friend mean? You
This
know
whole
what I mean?
idea of online as well, the notion that they put things in play, they share. Again, that's a word that I quite understand. Share, but they post and they do all these things, and you can know a person's lifestyle without much effort sometimes.
Oh yeah, and I have to say this: adults are just as guilty.
Sometimes more so, huh?
More so because you think, hey, I'm an adult. I post what I want. You don't like it, don't watch it. And I think with that, the adults are like, they're adults. They're accountable. They know what the circumstances are going to be. They're more aware. Whereas I think with kids, they don't necessarily realize going out into the world and this is going to be out there forever, you know, and getting them thinking about it in that context. Some of them might not know, might not care, and unfortunately that's something that they're going to have to learn later on in life and it's going to come back to bite them. But I think as parents, you know, with my son, I just say, you know, just be aware that whatever you post out there is a representative of you, your beliefs, who you are, how people are going to perceive you.
Right.
Is that really what you want to tell the world? And if he says, oh yeah, I don't care, I'm like,
which is the attitude
attitude. And for me, I'm like, you know, you can only do so much, you can only say so much, and that, unfortunately, at the end of the day, some of these kids are going to learn unfortunately the hard way.
But as I listen to you, on one hand there is that, but on then the other, I look at it as information. You're given that would be predator information that makes you vulnerable. That that causes them now to prey on you. They can come in and I think
you have to make them aware and get them thinking that for sure. And I think it also depends on the age of the child as well too. I think, you know, as much as we like to say, you know, our kids, you know, don't have accounts or we're not going to make them have accounts, they find ways to create them. So I think saying that, you know, I'm not going to let my child account and that's that, I think that's unrealistic, unfortunately, as much as we would like to think so. But unless you're a major tech guru and you know how to go in there and do that, most parents don't. I sure don't. But I think what you do have to do is just to teach them the right way to use social media and make them aware of it. Don't do this. Don't post this.
So I asked her how to be a father, but a tech guru, and I said this conversation is coming up, and he shared this was what he did in his household. So he got a bunch of children. I shouldn't say that way. Blessed is the man whose quiver is full. His quiver is full, right? And I admire his courage. Well, actually, he knows this. His wife is amazing. I mean, not only was she able to have all those children do all those good things, but she still loves him. Well, I don't know. He has a secret. And not that he's that handsome, you know. Well, he's going to give me a hard time later. But anyway, beautiful family, right? Lots of children, wonderful family. And he says, listen, in the household, I could set up all kind of, what was the word he used?
Controls, maybe?
Yeah, but he's a different word. Like basically,
security?
Put it in place and nobody could get anything, right? He says, nope. He says, you know, it's open. Go ahead and use it. When you get somewhere you're not sure, come check us. If you see something come up, come check us. Because first off, they could be trying to get into our bank accounts. So let's understand that. If it's the images that you don't want to see, well, you're going to see those. Let's talk about it and deal with it. So he has a very open policy, as it were, right?
Yeah.
And he shared, you know, he says to him, okay, you have an account you're posting. I don't know what the thing is, where they do videos and they upload stuff.
Right.
He says, okay, where are you when you're posting this thing? Are you in your room?
Yeah.
What are you wearing?
Yes.
What's around you?
Yeah.
Because there's all this information, even though you're geotagging your location, but there's these things. And as he shared this, I'm thinking, are we paying attention to that? So the young girl is posting in her bikini.
Yeah.
She's clothed,
Yeah.
but is that appropriate? Is that what you want?
Yeah.
Are you wearing whatever you're wearing, right? And there's so much more. As parents, some of us have no clue.
I dread when Zoe is old enough because she, trust me, I'm honestly dreading it. My son, he's a lot more conservative. Whereas Zoe, you know, from the time she was 4, she's like, I want to be a YouTuber. And I'm like, oh, Lord, help me.
What is that? Don't get me.
Yeah. But, and not that there's anything wrong with that. It just depends on what context you're using it in. But I think, you know, you really just, I think this gentleman's approach is really important. I think for us, what we did with our kids is we just block certain things, and if they needed to go, then they would come and ask for extra permission, or, you know, if they saw something that wasn't appropriate, come talk to us, that kind of stuff. That's what we did with my son, and he still does that, actually, which I'm grateful for. But it's...
Well, you're going to forgive me because I'm looking at, what is it be, social media stuff, whatever this is, as you're talking. So we've got a WhatsApp. I'll share with you what it's saying. And for me, that's disrespectful. I did hear what you're saying, but I was looking at you. The world we're in, the posting and the like. I wanted to ask, though, and Elke Fuhrer is joining us as we talk about in is that South Florida? Would that be Broward County in particular? Grace Place School. Tell us about it, and the whole issue of the notion that we probably don't see the risks that are so evident, and like you shared, we're going places where we're probably seeing what they want us to see,
right?
But a street over. I mean, I know a number of streets down there that you'd make the wrong turn at the wrong light, or you speed through quickly.
Yeah.
Now, it's still unsafe no matter where you are.
No. And I think the risk, I mean, with Grace Place, our focus is mostly the kids who live in those areas and who are at risk based on their demographics. But some of the videos that we've shown the kids as well, too, is, you know, kids, this one particular girl who was from, you know, straight A student, cheerleader, come from a well-to-do family. And, you know, she met this boy online, they talked and everything, and he had this job opportunity for her to, you know, and she's 18, she graduated, she was looking for job opportunities. And turned out that she found out later just little things, and he did it in such a way that she later found out that she was being primed to be trafficked. And she had no clue. So a lot of people think sometimes, you know, and not that it can't be, you know, that it's instantaneous and you just get picked up, thrown in the back of the van, and, you know, that's it.
That happens as well.
That happens as well. Don't get me wrong. That happens as well. But there's other ways that people or these predators get you. And that's why it's so important to just have these discussions with your kids and make them aware of, you know, it's not just what you see on TV with Taken. You know, there's other things, other ways it can happen with people that you think you know and you trust. And next thing you know,
use the word primed.
Yes.
Right? And so this person develops a relationship with you.
Absolutely.
All pleasant. At the end of the day, this is business for them.
Absolutely.
They're going to make X dollars off of this commodity.
Absolutely.
Right?
That's how
and
they look
that
at
sounds
you.
harsh, but that's what it is.
That's exactly
You're no more than another product that they're going to sell to whatever market, whatever buyer. You mean no more to them than, you know, the man on the moon, as they say.
Absolutely.
Our people need to understand that that's a reality.
Yeah.
I know it's harsh hearing. It was difficult for me even looking at some of the things and talking to some of the people, but these are the realities of our society.
Yeah.
Now, we're not saying to be in a bubble. We're not saying to be so afraid of life that you don't come outside.
No.
But just be aware.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think educating ourselves and our kids so that, you know, they know what to do and what not to do and what to be aware of. I think that's the most important thing, especially living in a bubble society like Cayman, where, you know, it's like...
But I would share, if I could, Ms. Elke, two things. One, that bubble society extends to the example you gave of this young lady, right? Straight A student, great family. She had a level of being nurtured, sheltered bubble,
absolutely.
Right? And that could be just like here. But equally, we talk about giving our children self-defense,
Mhm.
anti-bullying, what
Yep.
have you.
Mhm.
But this is more than that, because this is relationships in some cases that are being developed.
Yep.
Other than, nothing more than how do I get this to there, because it's a market.
Yeah, it's like the misconception of
Mhm.
stranger danger.
Yeah,
I'll use
yeah.
as an example when
Mhm.
a lot of times it's the people that are closest to us. There's cases of like bus stops or truck stops,
Yeah.
or those places where the kids were being sold by uncle or aunt or mother or brother. So
Wow.
it's a
But your example earlier, the lady knows the guy for a year.
Absolutely.
A year.
Mhm.
You must think, wow, a year. You pick up on some things. Maybe you do, maybe you don't.
Yep.
But what is the online relationship? You're chatting. There's no
Yep.
physical presence,
No.
so it's much easier to be primed, perhaps.
In some way, yeah, I
Mm.
agree. And people of all ages,
Yeah.
unfortunately. I think what you have to do goes back to what I was saying, is really educating yourself and knowing what those red flags are. Because you may think they're not, but
Right.
they're there. And just being aware and educating yourself and your kids of what those red flags are
So
on all situations, really.
Couple of questions. Then.
Sure.
One, in relation to what you do at Grace Place School over in Broward County, in Florida. What are some of those red flags, if you can share? What are some of those presentations? And then how can that relate to Cayman? Because, if a ski shop that sold parkas and mountain skis and stuff opened up in Cayman, I'm thinking, mightn't do that good. It might, right? Because people might use it. But the relevance of it, I think it is, but share with us.
I think some ways, for example, I'll give a couple of examples. For a friend of my boss's actually was telling me the story she went through with a gentleman that she met online. But for kids or for other young adults, I think the first thing to consider is the type of questions that they're asking, for one. Are they getting personal really quickly? Are they wanting you to send them inappropriate pictures? Those kind of things. Those, to me, is a red flag.
Yeah.
Because if it's a real friend isn't going to push you to do those things. You know what I mean? If they're a quote-unquote friend, I think some other things to look for if it's from a job opportunity. I think if they want to meet you in a place that's perhaps not appropriate, like, come meet me at my hotel room. I mean, geez, that's a red flag right there. If it's a business arrangement, why would you need me to meet in your hotel
I'm in town,
room?
though. Represent my company. Meet me at the lobby of the hotel I'm staying at. And now, sometimes we say,
You might say, what you do is just say, would you mind if we meet here instead?
Take control of it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Take control of it. You have the power. A lot of times we feel like, well, I'm going for a job. I don't want to, and we do this in relationships as well, too. We try to be accommodating. We don't want to, we give that person our power. But the truth is we have that power. We can control the situation and control the conversation. And we just say, if we don't feel comfortable, just say, hey, do you mind if we meet here instead because of,
the
whatever.
coffee shop right across the street. Yeah.
Absolutely. And I think that's something that's, especially our kids, we can show them that they do have that power. Just because this individual is an adult does not mean that they can't say no, or I don't feel comfortable with that, or can we, meet here instead if they want to, pull up to, pick you up somewhere or whatever. You just say, hey, no, actually, can we meet, so and so.
I can get my way there myself.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. I think that's important to teach them that they have that power to do that. I think that's really important.
Yes, but, sorry.
No, I was going to say, and then with the whole online thing, my friend's my boss's friend is an older lady in her 60s, and she met this wonderful man online, and he was sending her pictures of this beautiful place he wanted her to come up and visit and see and all of this, but he would pay for her ticket, but if she would mind paying a deposit on the vacation that they were going and all. So little things like that. It's like,
you can buy this, but you can't buy that.
Yeah, exactly. It just things like that. And if they're asking you things about your, to get money out of you, that's a huge red flag. That's not a site that you've gone to that you're purposefully wanting to buy something, for yourself. things like that, I think, are a way that, you can, or hey, come up and see me, and just maybe checking out the place before you go to make sure you're not going to some place that's in the woods somewhere and you don't realize till after you get there.
Yeah.
So I think it's really just being aware, educating yourself, and just being cautious.
With your, I don't know if I call them clientele, your students, perhaps.
Sure.
With your students, there was a time where we said safety in numbers. So, go out in groups and and don't go by yourself.
Right.
Is that still relevant these days?
I think so, yeah.
Okay.
I honestly think so. And just from the conversations that I've heard from the students, boys and girls, that it's for the purpose not so much of trafficking, but fighting or not being, attacked, that kind of stuff. So for me, it's like if it works in that context, it would work in the other contexts as well, too, because, if you got a group of 5 girls, it's harder to kind of get one of them to get in the car. If there's got to be one sensible girl in the group who's going to say, no, you need to go about your business. We staying together, right? So whereas if it's one girl walking by herself and the guy pulls up, hey, you need a ride, I'll take you here, how about I, take you to get something to eat, or you want, take you shopping or whatever, whatever it is.
Now, some people, but hopefully I'm not being improper to the women, they may feel they need to be, less disrespectful. So they don't want to say what some would say. What's your view? I mean, the guy pulls up to you, you don't want to get into the car. Tell him a few bad words and get lost, or what do you do?
Yeah, good point. I think it depends on the individual. I think for me personally, that wouldn't be my style to curse them out. Okay. But you know what? Some people can get aggressive, and it has to get to that point. I think the most important thing for me personally, I would say thank you, but no thank you. I'm fine where I'm going or whatever. Be assertive. Yeah. You have that power. You don't have to be, because I think as women sometimes, or younger kids, we're taught that, you got to be sweet, you got to be nice, you got to be understanding. They're trying to be helpful, be open, that kind of stuff. But the truth of the matter is, we all have that internal thing that tells us what's right and what's not right. And listen to that. Because, we have that, if we know that intuition, we know there's something not quite right.
All right. So let me ask a question. Can I put you on the spot?
No, absolutely.
And I want to ask a question to all of us. You don't need to all answer at once, but answer for yourself. Someone approaches you. So let's assume that you're a woman, and a guy approaches you, wants to know your name, wants to know something like that long number. Let's say your name. Do you sense, I don't know you from Adam. Yeah. No, bug off. I don't want to know your name, or do you give it? What would be the advice?
I will give you some of the situations that I've had in the States. Yeah, I've had where, I'm out at a dance social, and the guy comes up. Some guys will just ask you to dance. What's your name? That's it. Just friendly. Yeah, and that's the extent of the conversation. Whereas some guys will come and sit and they talk. They ask you, hey, can I have your number? Can I take you out sometime? And for me, I will listen to my intuition.
Yeah. Okay.
Is what I do. If I feel like he seems like a nice person, I'll say, well, I don't really give out my number to people. I'll be honest. I'll just say, I don't give out my number. I'm sorry. I'm sure you're a nice person, but I don't give out my number. If it's somebody that I've seen out, like I go to dance classes that I've seen out for a while, I've been out on a dinner date with a couple people in my class, but it's always been people that I've gotten to know and that I feel comfortable with. I don't give them my number. What I do is say, hey, I'll meet you. I choose a restaurant, or if they choose a restaurant, I Google where the restaurant is, and I'll say, yeah, that works for me. Or no, that doesn't work for me. Let's go here instead. Right. Some place that I know, that I feel comfortable with. It's in a space that it's not in some area that, oh my gosh, I could end up in the trunk of somebody's car. You know what I mean? I park close. So things like that. And, you don't have to be mean. You don't have to be nasty. If you just want, if the person is giving you a hard time, you need to be firm. Don't be afraid to be firm. Don't feel like you have to give them your number. I don't do that.
I worry sometimes about some of our people, young and not so young equally. They got this mindset, because of that bringing, they want to be polite.
Yeah.
Nah, your safety is more important.
You can be polite. I just say, I'm sorry, I don't give out my number. And if they still push, I said, I'm sorry, I don't know you.
Yeah. Now, for some listening, I was wondering, they would think, there's a fine line between this and being paranoid, but I don't know.
For me, it's like, whatever you don't feel comfortable with, don't do it. If you feel comfortable giving that person your number, that's up to you. That's your individual decision to make. Yeah. But if you don't feel comfortable doing it, don't feel that you have to be nice or you have to be accommodating. If you know in your gut that that's not what you want to do, I think that's really what it boils down to.
And as we listen to you, I'm hopeful that parents, are hopeful as it's somewhere more of us, whether it's the young person or someone else, will share this information. In particular, they're traveling, we're going off to the universities, to maybe back to boarding school, wherever we're going to go. And these are real occurrences right here in Cayman, in South Florida, where many of us visit.
Absolutely.
And to be end up in sex trafficking, abused and dead in many instances.
And then the worst part is a lot of times people don't realize you don't end up staying in the States. You end up somewhere in Thailand or Cambodia or whatever. So the hopes of your family finding you. Sad to say, but
it's a cruel world in some cases.
It really, really is.
It may not be many people, but one or too many who do these kind of behaviors.
Absolutely.
So your sort of parting words with us now in relation to this, what would you share? What would you repeat? What would you?
In regards to
being safe, being aware of all this.
I would say listen to your intuition and realize that you have a right to say no and not do what you don't feel comfortable with. I think that's really, and understand that it's okay to say no, and it's okay to not have to be so nice. That's okay. If that person doesn't like it,
well, if you can't like it, lump it.
Absolutely. Then they're not the person for you.
Right.
It's as simple as that.
I would ask those listening to recognize that sometimes we, unfortunately, believe it's only the women who are vulnerable, who are the victims. Your young boys, your young men, you yourself as a grown man. Who knows what that person has specified, they're looking to be abducted, so you never know.
Yeah. I think that's unfortunately something that gets missed, that we think, the boys, we don't have to worry about them. No, they're just as high risk as we have more boys in our program than girls.
You have more boys
in our program than girls because they're at risk two ways, as recruiters as well as victims.
Wow.
So, absolutely.
Right. So, Grace Place School.
Yeah.
All right. Well, you know what? It's unfortunate that these things happen. They're so close to home. I really appreciate you sharing with us. And
absolutely.
Anytime you visit, always a pleasure to listen to you, chat with you. I come away realizing why, to whom much is given, much is required.
Yeah.
We all have to play a role and do the best we can.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much, Ms. Elke.
All right. Thank you, Dwayne, for having me. It was a pleasure as always.
All right. Well, follow her online. Elke Feuer, F-E-U-E-R.
That's correct.
I always gotta make a note to mention it properly. Always agreed.
All right.
All right. To our listeners, after the break, Digital Cayman. Tech Talks, Cayman Tech City. That's what I'm going to be talking about. I got some really, really smart people coming into the studio. And one gentleman, if Ali Famore comes in, you want to see everyone light up. Oh, this is a remarkable guy.
I can't wait.
If you bring Charlotte with him, even better. So stay tuned for Talk Today.
Cayman Water Company would like to advise the public of roadwork interruptions from Monday, July 29th through to Thursday, August 1st on West Bay Road by the mini roundabout between Galleria Plaza and Fidelity Bank. Roadwork will take place from 8 p.m. until 4 a.m. Traffic headed into Georgetown from West Bay will be diverted onto the Esterly-Tibbetts bypass. Traffic headed into West Bay on West Bay Road will not be diverted. There will be no access given to West Bay Road if trying to come off the Esterly-Tibbetts bypass. Drivers are asked to proceed with caution and obey all traffic signs as roadwork is conducted on the mini roundabout between Galleria Plaza and Fidelity Bank on West Bay Road from Monday, July 29th until August 1st from the hours of 8 p.m. until 4 a.m.
Did you know that once properly sanitized, some tinned food items may still be safe for consumption after coming in contact with floodwater? In order to properly sanitize these tins, always remove labels and then wash tins in a strong detergent solution using a brush to get rid of excess impurities. Tins must then be immersed in a solution made of 2 tablespoons of chlorine bleach per gallon of water for 10 minutes. Ensure that containers are air-dried before opening. For more post-hurricane food safety tips, visit the DEH website at deh.gov.ky.
Do you have a business in the tourism industry? The Cayman Islands Department of Tourism wants you to get listed on their website. Visit CaymanIslands.com. It's absolutely free and will give your business added exposure on the #1 visited tourism site for the Cayman Islands. Learn more and get listed at www.visitcaymanislands.com/sign up. That's www.visitcaymanislands.com/sign up. Don't wait. Sign up today.
Headlines.
With the latest headlines.
All the news when you want it. Tune in to Radio Cayman for hourly headlines of the day's top stories.
One of Cayman's bright and shining young stars.
Local, regional, international.
Turning to international news.
Updates on the hour between 7 a.m. and 6 p.m. on weekdays. Radio Cayman News.
Headlines.
Your voice, your choice for today's biggest news.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waging to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Headlines.
With the latest headlines.
All the news when you want it. Tune in to Radio Cayman for hourly headlines of the day's top stories.
One of Cayman's bright and shining young stars.
Local, regional, international.
Turning to international news.
Updates on the hour between 7 a.m. and 6 p.m. on weekdays. Radio Cayman News.
Headlines.
Your voice, your choice for today's biggest news.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more.
JN Money Transfer, in association with Roma United Sports Club, present the official Jamaica Independence celebrations on Friday, August 2nd. Daytime activities take place on Cardinal Avenue from 7 a.m. to 3 p.m. with the best Jamaican food, arts and craft display, free sampling and free health checks. Don't miss the free lunch hour concert, plus lots of prizes and giveaways. Nighttime concert over at Crown Square on Eastern Avenue, featuring international reggae and dancehall superstar Wayne Marshall, alongside Paul Train, Dream Chasers dancers, plus lots of local performers. Come participate in the Kids Talent Contest, Best Dress Competition, Dance Contest, and Hot Wings Eating Contest. Music by DJ Marcus. Come out early to win a 40-inch TV, plus lots of giveaways and prizes. Admission is free. Sponsored by Popeyes, Best Dressed Chicken, Magnum, People's Choice Grocery, Superior Auto, Ideas Marketing, Kmart Hair and Beauty Supply, Danny's Auto, Breeze FM, and Radio Cayman.
Congratulations, it's a boy.
During the greatest events of your life, whether or not you have the right health insurance coverage should be the last thing on your mind. That's why at Fidelity Health, we are committed to helping you get matched with the right plan to suit you and your family. We offer a range of plans to suit your budget, plus access to a network of quality care throughout the Caribbean and the USA. You can relax and enjoy life's greatest moments when you are covered with Fidelity Health. Call us today at 949-7822 for a free quote.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waging to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Today, thank you so much for joining us, and honored now to be able to get a chance to look not just at our digital economy, but the idea of, how the digital marketplace is being shaped. And as I look around the table and see these fine gentlemen here, I get a chance to know, maybe understand more about the importance of it. Gents, with great respect to both of you, perhaps Mr. Charlie Kirkconnell, we'll start with you first, man. Good afternoon, Charlie.
Afternoon. Pleasure to be back.
Pleasure to welcome you into the studio and to see that not only as the CEO of Cayman Enterprise City, but the notion that we evolve in the marketplace. This notion that the importance of the financial sector and the tourism sector can somehow be blended by making sure that there's a growing leg to our economy, the employment opportunities for our people, the diversification for the government revenues, but just for us to be more positioned globally as a competitive environment.
Well, yeah, absolutely, and that's what the Digital Cayman initiative is all about, to promote the Cayman Islands as a globally significant digital jurisdiction, the kind of place where it's not just about some of the things like I guess the traditional things like tax mitigation and being, Cayman being a great place to live and work, creating the sort of tech community or tech-focused digital community that attracts people here in and of itself is what we'd like to accomplish.
Right. Now, also, as our guest, Ali, from the perspective of not just a regulated off-rig and the like, but you've always been a champion for having an infrastructure that allows us to be able to communicate not just globally, but even within our own island. How do we share? How do we make sure our businesses are not just up to date, but sometimes leading with the technological advances? I don't think I need to put words in your mouth, but I've heard you often say, from the personal perspective, and now as in your capacity, that we need to be front and center with making sure the infrastructure is there.
Absolutely, and it's not just infrastructure. I mean, we're as a group, we're also concerned about making sure that there's talent locally that can participate in what is a growing sector of our economy. Off-reg, while we're a regulator, we actually have a statutory obligation to promote economic growth and innovation in the sectors that we regulate. So we're in part participating because it's the right thing to do. It helps create opportunities for everyone, but also because we're obligated by law to make sure that we do what we can to support good ideas like this.
And we're going to talk about that because thinking of talent initially, and Ryan, I really appreciate Ali giving us the segue as I was going to invite you to join us. Now, Ryan Watson, the Director of IT Infrastructure at Brave Software. Before I ask, good afternoon. Any initial thoughts from you?
Just basically echoing what these guys have said. I'm really personally interested in growing the tech space in Cayman. I love Cayman, and I'd love to see this sort of area grow away from, not away from, but as well as fintech and that kind of stuff.
Right. The added complements and components to the economy. As we talk about, what is sort of digital Cayman and how it came about, may I could first ask then this notion of talent, because I keep thinking, again, you guys guide me. Too often, not long ago, as parents, as educators, we would say to our children, well, you become a lawyer, you become an accountant, you become these other things, and you can be pigeonholed into these sectors. You can still get those qualifications, but you can work in IT, you can work in the health sector with these qualifications. You're not a doctor, but you can still be very instrumental in the running of the organization as the IT operator, as other things. From the perspective of talent acquisition, attracting and retaining that talent, but growing, as Ali was sharing, the local populace into the understanding that you need these skill sets. These are viable, reputable, but also very lucrative careers, business opportunities. What would you say, Ray?
Yeah, I think I'd agree with that. And I think most people, when you think IT, think about people crawling under desks and unplugging computers. But from my experience and coming from like the Silicon Valley area, it is very lucrative, and there is a lot of opportunity for people to grow, learn to program, and also to make massive impact in the world, socially and globally, around everything.
I mean, my first thought when he said crawl on the desk and unplugging computer, I'm thinking, it's a raid from the fraud squad, but that's a different story.
One thing, if I may, just jump in.
Yes,
and if Paul Biles was here, who was also involved with our project but couldn't make it to this session, one of the things that he would add would be that sometimes when we speak with people, or when people think about IT and they think about related careers and opportunities, they think about things like desktop support and other kind of support functions for a business. Whereas for example, what Ryan does, he works for Brave Software, which is they're not a service provider. They're a entrepreneurial business creating a product. So in and of themselves, they're not a support function for another business. It's a business in and of itself, and that's one of the things that Digital Cayman it aims to do, is to raise the awareness for people that it's not about train in technology so that you can work for someone to support their business activity. There's certainly opportunities to do that. But there's also opportunities to be entrepreneurial in and of your own right, to get involved with projects, maybe even start your own project.
Now, if you're talking about digital Cayman and people ask, well, what is it? Would it be analogous to the Bar Association, the Medical Society lobbying for the industry, or is it more than that? What is digital Cayman? How would we quantify that?
It's equivalent to Cayman Finance, but for the tech sector.
Okay.
Yeah. But, to Charlie's point, Paul Baus, this is actually his idea to create this entity that would advocate for the industry, and because the industry is more than just a support element for a law firm or an accounting firm,
right.
But a separate sector in its own right. The largest companies in the world are tech companies, whether it's Amazon or Apple or Facebook or Google. Tech companies. Tech is a growing part of the global economy, and it has certain demands on infrastructure, on talent, on connectivity, on resources that other industries don't necessarily have.
And as you were sharing that, and I was thinking of today, hopefully, and with the greatest respect, not just publicizing digital Cayman, but getting us as parents, as prospective students, as educators, to realize how do we gear, how do we guide, how do we nurture some of our interests, our investment, so that our children see it. And I was thinking of notions like cryptocurrencies. We're becoming our favorite thing. Where we're looking at ideas of how do we protect our security, not just our personal security, our IDs and the like, but the security of our firms and the securities of our nation. And as we go online, two questions immediately. One, from the perspective of the infrastructure, that physical plant, machinery, equipment that we need in order to safely communicate, to have that information. Is that an event? I don't know what this week has been like, man. I almost want to make a joke, but that would be fun if only for some. Is it that's going to be a partnership between public and private to lay the fiber, the networking cable, to invest in the educational, or is that strictly, leave it to the private sector to do what we need to do?
It could be. There's nothing stopping it legally or from a regulatory perspective, preventing there being some sort of public-private sector partnership for elements of infrastructure. Obviously, we prefer the private sector to step up and do what it does. It knows better how to manage risks and how to do things efficiently than government entities tend to do. But if it were required for there to be some sort of PPP to provide the kind of infrastructure we're talking about, then we would not be opposed to it. And I don't think any government would be opposed to it if you're talking about doing something that's critical for the country. So, for example, we don't bat an eye when a government says, I need to build a new airport or I need to build a new dock. Well, you might have a referendum or two, but people understand that those are things that a government needs to invest in for the benefit of the population. So,
right.
And these are the sort of things that we're sort of discussing and bringing in multiple parties from multiple areas of expertise to try and get things moving in that direction.
Right. And I was thinking in relation to, was it back to the U.S. in the early days of this evolution, we saw a lot of rollout of the physical plant, and not cooperative, not even competing, but almost to the extent where it was, you're doing this and it's overlaying it, there's no connectivity. In the Cayman context, could we get it right so that there is this, through digital Cayman, for instance, there's this symbiotic relationship where we're attracting the talent, we're exposing the educational opportunities, but we're also speaking as a voice for the sector.
Absolutely, that's why we're here. To make sure that the sector does have a voice. Folks such as these fellas here are closer to the ground in terms of living and breathing a tech entity and doing what it takes to help that survive. So to Ryan's point, we need to hear from more voices in that community to hear what their requirements are, what their struggles are. Do we have a lack of investment? Do we have a lack of infrastructure? Do we have a lack of public policy? Do we have a lack of education? Where is it that we need to make as a country those investments?
Right.
I think now's a good time for a plug as well. If you're interested in becoming a member at Digital Cayman, visit digitalcayman.com and you can register your interest there and we'll get you signed up. And I think for this year, it's the first year, it's the membership is gratis. We're going to be covering that. So,
right. And I want to ask then, because sometimes when we're talking about these things, and people may say, well, I'm not, into that sector. I'm not into IT. I'm not a technical savvy person. So how does this concern me? I'm just a member of the public. I work in the tourism sector. I'm, whatever it is over here. How does that apply across the board to all of us as a part of the digital economy?
Well, the digital economy affects all of us, right? Everybody is a user. Everybody is impacted by...
Businesses have websites.
Absolutely. We all have these little computer devices called phones in our pockets.
Sadly.
So we're all impacted by it, and you want to make sure that you're not only being impacted by it positively as a country, but that you're creating opportunities for future generations, or for this generation. We're not talking about 20 years down the road. There are opportunities here in Cayman right now.
From that perspective, then, those opportunities that are available, how, one, widespread do you think they are, and two, how many of us are cognizant of those opportunities? You're not talking about the tech bubble where you invest and it goes up, but Charlie, what do you think?
Well, I think there's a lot more opportunity. There's certainly more opportunity than there's more demand than there is supply in the Cayman Islands at the moment. So there are many, many businesses seeking to hire locally qualified technical talent, but it's in, like I said, it's in very short supply. So the opportunity is very good, and it's growing. And I can say that as someone who sees it on a daily basis. We deal with new companies, growing companies that are already here, and we're trying to help them find people as in wherever we can. But there is a shortage.
So from that perspective, the talent that we need in order to facilitate the growth, but also to service what we have now. We see as Chief Technology Officer, we look at people who are skilled at certain things and coding and like. Right, from your perspective, what are we looking for?
Personally, from my perspective, is I'm looking for very talented engineers. My company needs engineers, a lot of engineers. And trying to find local talent is actually proving very difficult. We've reached out to recruiters, and I think right now we're currently doing an internship program. So we have a couple of people from the local schools interning with us. But I think we need to foster growth and get people in, get these talented people in, because I think what they don't know is that the Cayman Islands is fantastic for infrastructure. You can come here and have fast internet. You can have fiber to your door. We have data centers. There's things available to everyone that a lot of people just don't know about.
That's the thing. We don't know about it. Those who know, but those who don't.
That's why we're here.
Right? And we're going to know after this, right? But then, Ryan, why is it, in your view, then, is it challenging to find that and recruit that talent locally?
I think it's mainly because this island is attracting the people for lawyers and business and that kind of stuff, and it's just not known for its tech. So I think that's basically what we're here to do, is try and fix that.
Yeah, you alluded to it earlier, where you're as parents, when you're speaking to your children about where the opportunities lie. It's usually not in technology, or traditionally it has not been. And that's part of the job. That's part of why we're here, is to, and part of why we've been here before. CEC has been here before to talk about the various initiatives that we're supporting and trying to make sure that people are aware, especially young people, are aware of the types of opportunities that are becoming available, so that they can, from an early age, start potentially looking at those sorts of careers, understanding that it's not just financial services and tourism, that there may be a career for them in the Cayman Islands in technology.
Then I was sort of questioning to this whole notion that when we look at the tech sector, that skilled, experienced individual is in short supply globally, not just here. So to attract someone from Silicon Valley or some other part of Europe even to Cayman, it may not be as easy.
Right, but then again, it shouldn't be that hard either. We have beautiful beaches, beautiful weather, the people are very nice, the good infrastructure, everything you need is here. And I would say, in terms of living, it's a much nicer way of living than, say, in San Francisco, where the rent is 3-4 times the cost.
So with that, and through the infrastructure, through the government's initiative, through Digital Cayman, we can attract that talent, from other jurisdictions. But then we can grow our own here. That takes time.
Yes, it does take time. But to Ryan's point, I was in Silicon Valley last year, and trust me, Cayman is not expensive compared to Silicon Valley. We have fewer homeless people and fewer taxes. So
and fewer stuff on the streets in the bags.
Yeah,
exactly. Anyway, just leave that for now.
And another thing to kind of flip it on its head a little bit, where we're talking about, can we attract the top tech talent to come to the islands? If we create a critical mass, of technically qualified local talent, that will attract businesses to come here, and it will also lead to young Caymanians starting their own projects as well. So that's the other reason for the mission. If we or that's the other mission of the digital, or one of the missions of the Digital Cayman Initiative, is to develop this critical mass that will enable Cayman to grow into a globally significant hub.
I think I really welcome this opportunity, because I think as a society, as parents, as educators, I love summers. Summers are a beautiful time, not just to work in your tan and travel and lake, but it's transition. You're going to be doing something come September if you're a student. If you're a parent, you can start to see. And it's just to be, I guess, from that evolution from the agrarian society onwards now. But I ask that to say then, if we were looking in a Cayman context at developing that potential pool of talent that can still be based here, educating and informing and advising, making sure that they are cognizant that you can be based there and you can hop a flight when you need to go elsewhere, when you physically need to be there, but you can be based there and be very successful. The timeline for that high school student now who's thinking of, but I want to get into this sector. I like computers, I like coding, I like hacking, I like whatever it is that they're fanciful of, to do it properly. What sort of timeline are we looking at? 1 year and you're done, 50 years and then you're certified?
Software never, you're never done with software, I'm afraid.
Right.
I can tell you that from when I left school. I didn't finish high school. I went straight into work, and I decided that I was really interested in tech, and so I went and learned on my own, and I've been learning ever since. And I would say the best time to start learning is a couple of years ago, and the next best time is today.
Right. And I appreciate you, because that is the reality. And we look at, maybe I'll ask of you, there are those of us who from early on like the computer. We would do different things, and we go back to the first early languages of trying to code, and then some kept it and some elsewhere. But we see the students particularly geared towards it. They're doing stuff that we may not necessarily appreciate. How do we nurture that? How do we get them to that point where they're in the sector and they're actually contributing? They're running their businesses.
Well, I knew from primary school which of my kids were into tech and which weren't. So there's something to say about it being hardwired, right?
Yeah.
But tech isn't only, the tech sector doesn't require just coders and IT people. It requires graphic design folks. It requires people with artistic flair. There's a kid out there who earlier this week won $3 million playing a video game called Fortnite, okay? And it's going to be hard now for parents to tell kids, you can't make a living off of that, right?
You got to say that on this one.
But a video game is more than just code.
Yep.
There's a soundtrack, there's graphics, there is a lot of different skill sets that contribute to what you would call a tech product. So tech isn't just the guys crawling onto the desks doing the wires. Tech is a very diverse and broad industry. And I would say, to Ryan's point, it's less egalitarian than finance and banking has been. In our experience, it's been, I got to get you to a good school, kid, and you got to get a good degree from a good school so you can go back here and get a good job. If you're good at what you do in tech, they don't care what kind of paper you have or you don't have. You just need to deliver.
Proof is in what you can do.
Absolutely.
All right, and I'm glad you mentioned that. And the reason I would ask you to guide me is because I think too many times, and I don't want to put the onus on parents and educators, but if they would allow, hopefully because it's summer, we guide our children. You got to go to this school. We put a lot of pressure, and I'm a strong proponent for education in all forms. But proof is in the pudding. Your piece of paper is great, but can you really balance the balance sheet and show me the analysis of the accounts? Yeah, you're CPA or CA, but you passed the test. Can you do what needs to be done? Now, not being dismissive in that sense. But the tech part, sometimes we either think of the support, We think of the coding, but there's all these other things. How do we get? Well, no. Let me not jump ahead. Through digital Cayman, how do you plan to achieve making sure that we see that it's all these things, and how do we get people to buy into it?
Getting folks interested, excited about tech in general, the industry in general, making sure we've got folks like Ryan and other companies that are already here that we may not know about. Ryan's product, the Brave browser, I use it every day. It's awesome. But how many people know that browser, first of all, is there, and that the company that makes it is here? We need to do a better job of promoting our individual entities, and there are lots and lots of entities within Charlie's CEC that maybe we don't know about. So getting to be more familiar with the success stories that are already here and the opportunities that they present to young and old folks alike here in Cayman, I think is part of our mission.
Right.
It's and one of the way I think about the Digital Cayman Initiative kind of breaks into three individual missions, if you will, and one of them is the one that we're talking about right now, which is for the Digital Cayman to be the voice of the digital community in the local community. And I will say that Ryan has been a very, very positive and very proactive member of what we're working on right now. But he's not the only, he's not alone. There are a lot of people that we speak to on a very regular basis that also have interests in being part of what we're working on. And so what we need to do, and why Digital Cayman exists, is to get people involved and give them show them how they can reach out to the schools, get involved in helping the government or whoever with curriculum, and helping to flag what the opportunities are, and then getting involved in other various types of activity. Very often when we speak to people, even though they're very interested in doing some of these things, they're not really sure how to get involved. Digital Cayman will be the conduit for that.
All right. When we come back then, let's talk about that, because I know there's the notion of tech talks and how we do the networking and be able to continue, so that we start to see there's more to Cayman than just the financial sector, the tourism sector, but even there, tech plays a role. All right. We invite you to call and share your thoughts if you so choose. Stay tuned for our headline news at 2. When we come back, more talk today.
King Sports Center Art of Fun Summer Camp is back from July 2nd to August 2nd. Now in its 15th year, the Art of Fun Camp is ideal for kids ages 5 through 10, with activities from football, basketball, dodgeball, squash, rock climbing, arts and craft, dance, singing, and more. Your child can practice physical and social skills while having fun in a safe and secure environment. For more info, call 946-KING. Like King's Sports Center on Facebook, and you can also find them on Instagram, or call 946-5464. King Sports Center, providing you with all your fitness, recreation, and relaxation needs. Register before May 31st and save 10% on camp registration. Looking for a new car? We can give you a zillion reasons to switch to electric. They cost you less to run. They helps to save the planet. They are free charging stations all across Grand Cayman. Low maintenance needs. They're quiet both inside and out. And they're the future. But most of all, the government has reduced custom duties on electric cars. For cars valued below $30,000, you now don't have to pay anything. Visit the Ministry of Commerce, Planning and Infrastructure Facebook page for more information on electric cars.
Don't forget to tune in every Monday through Friday for the 7 a.m. news, brought to you by Cayman National Bank, proudly serving the Cayman Islands since 1974. Visit Cayman National Bank today for all of your financial needs.
Satisfaction is guaranteed 24 hours a day, whether it's music or information.
From Grand Cayman to Cayman Brac to Little Cayman, we've got you covered.
You ever hear a thing like that?
Radio Cayman in the Cayman Islands.
Radio Cayman.
Radio Cayman's newsroom. These are the biggest stories right now.
Inmates explore career options at a special session this week. 92 inmates attended a presentation and panel discussion on the new Career Pathways program at the Northwood Prison Chapel on Wednesday. Inmates had the opportunity to discuss and learn about post-prison career options. The goal of the program is for inmates to avoid reoffending by helping them get qualifications and ultimately a job once they've served their time. Good afternoon, I'm Dion Anglin with your headlines. In news elsewhere, thousands of people are being evacuated from a town because part of a reservoir wall has collapsed in floods. Engineers are pumping water from Tudbrook Reservoir, but if it bursts, it could swamp Whalley Bridge in Derbyshire. Police have told the town's 6,500 residents to gather at their local school, taking pets and medication with them. A Cambridge student fell to her death in Madagascar after opening the door of a small plane in mid-air, police have said. Alana Cutland, who was 19, from Milton Keynes in Buckinghamshire, died in July, the Foreign Office confirmed. Police on the African island said it was not yet clear why she opened the door of the light aircraft. And cancer patients and carers are calling on Kenya's government to declare the illness a national disaster and provide extra funds. Protesters took to the streets of the capital, Nairobi, in matching T-shirts that read, "Act on Cancer Today." They say long delays caused a lack of accessible and affordable treatment, which mean many patients' conditions worsened. That's a wrap of your headlines. I'm Dion Anglin.
Radio Cayman, the voice of the Cayman Islands.
What's happening in your community? News and information, music and more. You can find us. www.radiocayman.gov.ky. Like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter. Radio Cayman is your choice, your voice for today's biggest news. Radio Cayman.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome back to Talk Today, and thank you for joining us. And as I start to appreciate more and more the great talent that is in this country, the opportunities that the country is, through its investment and its investors have to attract others and to provide for those who live and work here. It's incredible, and I hope that we start to appreciate it and do our very best to promote as well as to protect it. In the studio, Deputy CEO and Executive Director at Offrig. One day, Mr. Ali Fawad, get the title correct. That's a long title. And the CEO over at Cayman Enterprise City, Mr. Charlie Colonel, together with a very unassuming, gracious young gentleman, Mr. Ryan Watson, the Director of IT Infrastructure over at Brave Software. I like the idea that we're talking about, the digital economy, the digital sector, the fact that whether we are intimately aware and involved, we're almost oblivious to the impact technology has on our lives. To our cars, we complain that the mechanic no longer can service the car without a computer. We see government's initiative, not just in the Cayman context, but globally, going to something electronic, and we complain when the bank says, well, no, that's online, you can't come into the teller. But yet we like the convenience, we like the cost savings. Right from the perspective, as you shared, a tech guru from the womb to present, two questions. Sure. One, was it, what was it that attracted you? Did you know that was where you wanted to be? And two, could you tell us more about, Brave Software and the whole sort of
Sure.
perspective?
Yeah, so I have been interested in tech from a very, very young age. Mostly school for me was a write-off. I wasn't interested, but I have a funny story from my mother saying that she came downstairs one time to me when I was 5 or 6 years old, and I'd completely disassembled the radio. And I was looking at the parts on the inside, the chips, that kind of stuff, and she was complete shock. So I had to reassemble it, and it was working again. So from an early age, I knew that's the sort of thing I wanted to do.
Wow, see, that's where I made a mistake. I disassembled our Philco radio, but I couldn't get it back together. That's what I knew. But you're hardwired. You know. But you've been encouraged and nurtured, and now you shared with the educational component. We see that with some of the people who didn't need to finish high school or didn't finish university, but you still need a level of what is it to say, math and English and science and stuff?
I would say education is extremely important. You just need to target it correctly. When I was in school, my IT class was learning about Microsoft Word, Microsoft Office. This is not what I'm interested in. I was interested in programming, but we weren't fostering that correctly when I was going through high school.
Was that yesterday? Because I thought it was the same thing yesterday in some school. Targeting, making sure that you identify your audience.
Right. And so when I left school, I knew the sort of areas that I was interested in. So I took multiple courses around specific areas of technology, operating system specialist, things like Linux and terminal, some programming.
Right.
So it's not that I'm completely, I haven't done any education. It's just that it's so important to nurture the sort of education that the student is interested in.
Okay. And the reason why I ask that is that I keep saying to people, and hopefully not improperly, when we look at technical and vocational training, that we give the child something that allows that child to be able to, if it's a piece of paper, as we like to reference, whether they're in Cayman or they're in Germany, whether they're in Canada or in Cambodia, that they can say this is it, but then they can sit by the terminal and do the thing that they say they can do. Is it then that when we're looking at the training from that perspective, just like we want the lawyer, the doctor, the accountant to be able to be credentialed, do we also need to make sure the technical guru is credentialed as well?
Yeah, I think it's not a bad idea. As Ali said, the proof is in the pudding, and if the person is very good at what they do, it doesn't matter what the piece of paper says.
Right.
But at the same time, there are foundational skills that you can learn from having that piece of paper.
Right.
For instance, I've done a course before, and the course was about you had to learn this operating system and how this thing worked. So the course actually involved the test was sit at this computer, and we want you to break into this computer. We want you to write code to get in there. Then you're going to have to set up the networking to get online. Then you're going to have to go to the website, and then you get the questions. So even before you've even got any of the questions, you have to know this operating system and how it works. And I felt that was very beneficial for me.
Yeah, because it's, you've got to know what you be able to do in order to get it done, right?
Right.
Brave Software, what is it? Tell us about it.
So Brave Software is a software company. We have a browser and a utility token called BAT, Basic Attention Token. And so our web browser is a privacy web browser. So basically you can download it for Android, iOS, desktop, any sort of platform you like, and you'll be able to browse the web without being tracked, essentially, is what we're trying to do. So we're trying to stop intrusive advertising and block ads. And that's the very, very base level of our service. But what we're offering in the future is if you would like to turn on ads, right? Who wants to see ads? No one really, but it pays the bills. If you want to turn ads on as a user, you'll see very targeted ads that are still privacy preserving. And why would I as a user like to see ads? Well, we actually give the revenue, 70% of the revenue to the user for watching those ads. So it's kind of a win-win situation.
Yeah. You pay me to watch as opposed to the practice now.
Yeah.
Right. Now, with that perspective, when we look at browsers and some of us will go on and they're the more perhaps well-known ones listed and and some of us don't even think about it. We just open the computer, it pops up, we don't even change it to the one that we think we know. It goes on, it tells us what we're looking at. For Brave, how do we get it if we want it?
Sure. So just go to brave.com and you'll be able to download it for whatever device you're on. By default, we block ads, so you could watch YouTube without seeing any ads. You can see any of that stuff without any trackers tracking you on the web. Like I said, very privacy-driven. We're very user-first, so we take a lot of consideration around what we do for the users.
So just like you would download any of the other browsers, you download it the same way into your device.
Precisely. We're a very new company, but we've seen a lot of very strong following from people who actually try it out, and we're growing at a very exponential rate.
I think this is one of the things that some of us, not only because of the inconvenience, but because of the cognizance of, I don't want to be tracked, for whatever reason. And then they're looking at something and it pops up. Now, I'm going to maybe ask a few questions of you at some point to come back on to chat relative to the Cayman marketplace and how things are being targeted and how you're being limited and the like. But through Digital Cayman, could we then see a domain, well, that's probably the wrong word, a jurisdiction where when you log on here and you go elsewhere, you don't have to be subjected to a search that is regional or geographic specific. I want to know what's what. Just let the ones come up.
Absolutely. There's any number of ways for the digital industry in Cayman to take advantage of the unique sales proposition that we have, and it's multifaceted, right? It's not just sun, sand, and beaches. There is a culture here of privacy.
Yeah,
always has been. There are countries where your identity can be stolen. This is not one of them. And so when we got into the financial services arena years ago, we leveraged that culture of privacy, and we've done well. We have competitors in tourism. We have competitors around the world in financial services. We have been able to leverage what is unique about Cayman in those spaces and do well, right? Mm-hmm. And for us, because we're so small, it's about niche. It's about playing to that niche market. We're not going to be all things to all people in anything, really. Right. So whether we're talking about medical tourism or we're talking about technology, I think we need to also think about learning from what has worked in the past. What is the niche when it comes to tech, or the several niches when it comes to tech that Cayman can differentiate itself in? And privacy might be one of those. Right. So companies like Brave, whose keystone, one of their foundations is the concept of privacy, could be the key to a future niche for Cayman in the tech sector.
Well, as you shared, I'm thinking of data protection legislation locally, but also the global initiative to an extent. And you're browsing from the Cayman context, and you guys are much more technical savvy, much more. Sorry, you can't see this.
Not me.
You notice I look at the two of those, right? You can't see this video because your IP address is blocked. You're not allowed from your jurisdiction. Then people buy VPNs and like to get around that. Is that something that could be addressed from this perspective and lobbied, or is that necessary because of what have you?
So those sorts of things are actually controlled by the local government where the content is hosted. Right. So if you want to watch your content in America, you need to make sure that licensing has been agreed for Cayman to be able to watch that. Watch that video. But as you say, people are circumventing it using things like VPNs, and these are sorts of things that my company is looking at as a growth opportunity. Yeah. Can we offer a VPN in the browser? Can we circumvent this stuff? And that's just an area we're going to. And
I use that as an example of some friends who are here, but they like to watch their local news. So they got a thing, but they log on, and they can't see it. Or we noticed that you're in this IP address, and it knows it. It knows it, right? At least he's smart. He's got all fixed that. And then they find their way around, and they get to watch their BBC program or their Canadian program or Lithuanian programming. But maybe the Cayman context could be that gateway that allows people not circumventing the copyright laws and the like, but be able to preserve the privacy and still access the international economy as we need.
And all of that's changing. So what you mentioned and what Ryan over there at Brave is seeing is not a technology issue. It's a legal issue. Yeah. It's issues around copyright and intellectual property and that sort of thing. And a lot of that stems back to the way the music industry and the film industry works, which is still a bit antiquated in terms of how they structure their intellectual property and how the licensing for things is structured. So again, it's nothing to do with technology, but it does impact the end user at the end of the day. Right. What I can say is that all of that is changing. Right. So one of the biggest TV companies in the world is Netflix. Yeah. They don't have a network. They don't have satellite dishes. They produce content and stream it, and you buy it through somebody else's pipe. Nobody has a Netflix internet connection. They buy their internet from whoever their internet service provider is, and they're buying that content from them, who and bypassing the traditional type of TV delivery, and so that entire financial model of how you make a TV show, how you finance it, how you attract the advertising to pay for it, all of that is being disrupted now. So is there a role for Cayman to play in some small area of that? Maybe. Is it in the traditional intellectual property, create a trust or some sort of vehicle here to protect it? Maybe. But there are probably other avenues for us to explore.
Right. But the idea too with what you share with Netflix is that I understand. If you watch, say you have your account and you come here and you log into your account, you may not get the same programming that you would in Kansas City or wherever else you are. Now, is that the jurisdiction that is controlling that? How does that work?
That's the licensing rights that pertain to that piece of content, how it was made, where it was made, and under what conditions. So some of the licensing restrictions, for example, tie back to a movie studio's relationship with the labor union that contracts that they've got with different staff who worked on the movie, which impacts how and when and under what circumstances that content gets promoted outside of the original jurisdiction. So a lot of it's archaic and old, but it needs to catch up.
And the reason why I ask that, not to belabor, is that I'm thinking back to this notion that if we're thinking of getting into the sector, look beyond that. So that entertainment lawyer, that sound engineer, and all part of the tech, that this could play a role in how do you deliver in this new marketplace.
Yeah, maybe they should get a coin from Brave and participate through a special coin offering and the proceeds of the film. I don't know, but there's any number of ways to exploit it.
Mr. Fox, we got a final break to take. All right, let's take that. Then gents tell us more about Digital Cayman.
Okay.
And, I want to hear more. Stay tuned for Talk Today.
A caring and community spirit, cherished family and cultural values. These are some of the things that still embodies the Caymanian way of life in the Eastern Districts today. Savannah Pharmacy, your neighborhood pharmacy, located in Countryside Shopping Village, is delighted to offer products and services of real value. Whether it's catering to your family's medical needs or carrying apparel, gifts, and beauty products, Savannah Pharmacy provides you with more than just prescriptions. Remember, they're always just around the corner with everything your family needs and convenient opening hours, including Sundays and holidays. Savannah Pharmacy. For more information, call 946-3336.
Cayman Water Company would like to advise the public of roadwork interruptions from Monday, July 29th through to Thursday, August 1st on West Bay Road by the mini roundabout between Galleria Plaza and Fidelity Bank. Roadwork will take place from 8 p.m. until 4 a.m. Traffic headed into Georgetown from West Bay will be diverted onto the Esterly-Tibbetts bypass. Traffic headed into West Bay on West Bay Road will not be diverted. There will be no access given to West Bay Road if trying to come off the Esterly-Tibbetts bypass. Drivers are asked to proceed with caution and obey all traffic signs as roadwork is conducted on the mini roundabout between Galleria Plaza and Fidelity Bank on West Bay Road from Monday, July 29th until August 1st from the hours of 8 p.m. until 4 a.m.
The Miss Cayman Islands Universe Committee is inviting you to our pageant on 17th August, 7 p.m. at the Ritz-Carlton. The committee continues to empower young Caymanian ladies to become role models in the community. So come out and see our 6 beautiful contestants vie for the title of Miss Cayman Islands Universe. The winner will represent us at the Miss Universe pageant. Get your tickets today at Funky Tangs and Sand Angels.
Fancy a night of live music, art, good food, and celebration? The first Saturday Night Live in Georgetown event is coming. From 4 p.m. on Saturday, 3rd August, you're invited to share in a modern downtown waterfront celebration full of local arts, sumptuous food, and lively music, all set against the beautiful sunset backdrop of Hogstye Bay. For more details, check out the Ministry of CPI Facebook page and find out how you can share in the Georgetown Revitalization Initiative.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners' participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waging to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome back. And thanks so much. And I hope our guests, I hope you feel welcome. In all seriousness, I've enjoyed it. I'm hopeful that it'll inspire in many of us, with the greatest respect, again, many of us as parents. As I think you said earlier, yesterday, you should have got involved, but today is not too late. If you don't do it, do it now. So in the studio, Mr. Charlie Kirkconnell, the CEO of Cayman President, thanks for joining us. He's brought along, a gentleman that I think we all look at and say, man, when I grow up, I can be handsome like him. That'll be good. I'll live for more. And so, despite having to be at off rig, we still like you.
Appreciate that.
Only on days ending in a while, though. Other days, we're not so sure about. And Mr. Ryan Watson from Brave Software. Thanks for sharing a bit with us as well, and I'm hopeful. Mm-hmm. But sometimes, and respectfully, I think sometimes when we hear about tech and we look at these things, 2 things may happen. one, we have a perception, oh, that's for those guys who are the gurus and they're smart and they're this. And then secondly, we become dismissive because we don't see how it affects us immediately in impact. I noticed the tech talks that are coming up. Maybe it'll give us an insight, but share with us some more so that we see how important this is to all of us.
Sure.
Okay. Well, regarding the tech talks, these are events that we, Cayman Enterprise City, I'm kind of here with two hats on. Cayman Enterprise City and the Digital Cayman Initiative have put together. It's a series that will take place on make sure I get this right, the second Thursday of each month at Southwest Collective. And the idea is for there to be a discussion of issues that are relevant to people in the technology industry. And we choose a different topic for each event. The one coming up, which will be on Thursday, the 8th of August, is focused. It's essentially going to be designed to be a roundtable discussion of what can we do in Cayman to promote the jurisdiction, to improve the jurisdiction as a digital community, and really just to give people an opportunity to share their thoughts and brainstorm. And I believe doesn't say the time on here. I should get the time. Is it
6?
6. So 6 o'clock. Yeah. So it begins at 6 o'clock. The upcoming one, as I said, Thursday, the 8th of August, and it's a roundtable discussion. And but each month we will do a different topic. And very often we'll actually, what we've done after the first one is we've reached out to members of the Digital Cayman community and said, do you have a topic that you would like to moderate? And so as we move forward, the community itself will be picking the topics.
And how do they register for the event, Charlie?
Okay, so they go to www.digitalcayman.com. Sorry, that's if you want to register for Digital Cayman. If you'd like to register for the Tech Talks event, go to innovate@caymanenterprisecity.com.
All right.
But one way or the other, you go to either one of those, and just say that you're interested in attending the Tech Talk, and we'll come back to you. I should say that the space is limited, so if you have an interest, please do contact us sooner rather than later.
So innovate@caymanenterprisecity.com, or just look at digitalcayman.com for either way.
Correct.
Yeah. And it's important. Now, we do have a caller online who's joined us as we talk about it. Gents, our seatbelts are not working today, but the headsets are. Okay. And if the volume levels are adequate and you can hear everything in the studio, Ali Formo, together with Charlie Kirkernel and Ryan Watson. Hey, good afternoon. Welcome. You're on Talk Today.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, sir. How are you?
I'm fine, and you? And good afternoon.
All right. Welcome.
I just have a question. It's concerning the general public always about this enterprise city. It is being from the time two previous governments already on, and this term gonna finish, and the one before, that is almost 12 years now, this enterprise city start. And they promise us to build enterprise city.
Right. I'm going to ask you, and you're probably not going to like it, but let me interrupt you and say that two things. One, we can get to that another point, but since we're talking about Digital Cayman, now I would ask only if Mr. Kirkernel wants to sort of address any of the issues relative to enterprise city and the groundbreaking and the new construction, but we'll leave that to you. But caller, respectfully, let's leave that for now, because as we focus on the digital economy and Digital Cayman, Charlie, is up to you.
Okay, no, I'd like to update the gentleman that we broke ground on the construction project in November of last year, and since then we've been doing site works, and we're almost completely through with the site works on our first building. Actually, the site works will support our first three buildings. We had to put the infrastructure in place to, in order to do the first one, it made sense to also do the infrastructure to support the next the next two buildings as well. Construction on the first building will begin shortly. We're almost completely through the site prep. And the first building is slated to be completed in Q1 of 2021. We originally were planning to have the building online. We were hoping to have the building online in Q3 of 2020. However, when we got on the site, we found that it was there was more peat than anticipated, and it led to us having to do a little bit of a redesign on the foundation works and etc., which has caused us a slight delay, or caused us to be delayed. But we're underway, and it is coming to fruition.
Well, you know what? It's not just vision, but a willingness to make that continued investment. So, looking forward to it, man.
Yeah.
Sometimes, Mr. Ali, things take time, right?
That's right.
All right. Yeah, even the best bread needs to rise for a while before we make it. But, gents, as we look at this whole idea of the digital economy and digital Cayman, and could I perhaps invite some sort of final thoughts? And I was thinking, do we leave the handsome, most experienced to last, or we start?
Is that me?
I like it, Ryan. I like it.
Go ahead, Ryan.
Go, see?
Yeah.
No, after the handsome gentleman.
Oh, Ryan.
We're on radio, so nobody knows, right?
Yeah.
From a policy perspective, OFREG wants to support the digital economy and the sector as much as we can. We're concerned about a number of things, such as cybersecurity.
Mm-hmm.
We're looking at the possibility of legislation in that regard to modernize the various legislative frameworks that we have to recognize the kind of threats. One that Ryan spoke to me about just before we came on air, in fact. We're developing tools within the public sector, within my space, as well as the police, to help us detect and respond and address those kinds of threats. So there's a lot going on the public policy side of the house. But what excites me about the bringing together an industry of participants doing all sorts of things as they do every day in the tech space is that hopefully our policy initiatives can be informed by the likes of Ryan and Charlie's clients in CEC, who are living and breathing, success or failure in the tech space, and who might need support from policy, from infrastructure, from licensing. So one of the things we talked about, for example, at our last steering committee meeting was the fact that we had created a licensing sandbox that will enable folks to get a temporary or experimental license to try out some tech, whether it's radio tech or internet tech or what have you, to be able to experiment and do so in a safe environment, managing your risk, and then being able to come out and say to regulator, whether it's me or somebody else, here's the kind of license I need, and I don't think you have actually got the right kind of framework to support this brand new kind of business that we want to create. So, for example, we see a point where in this crypto area where tech and financial services start to overlap. And that could create opportunities, but it can also be dangerous and have risk. Is OFREG completely ready to take that on? Not right now. Is SEMA completely ready to take on a new regulatory ambit for a new kind of security or a new kind of currency? These kind of things are better explored when you're in partner with the private sector and not trying to work on laws in a dark, closed basement in some government building someplace.
Right. So not just incubation for the new startup, but a sort of responsive regulatory framework.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Charlie, you got your job cut out for you, boy.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And to kind of continue on what Ali was saying, in a way, just to sum up, if I may, what the digital Cayman initiative is all about. It's designed to be an industry representative body, and that may sound funny coming from someone that's not actually in the industry. I want to be clear that Cayman Enterprise City's role in all of this is to be a facilitator. This is an industry representative body, so comprised of industry members. The purpose of the initiative is for Digital Cayman to be the voice of Cayman's digital sector, and in three ways. And it's a direct voice to speak to the government about things like policy, legislation, strategy, and just whatever other sort of associated initiatives that they might be able to support. To be the voice of the digital community in the local community. So to work with the schools, the universities, and other programs to make people aware of what the career opportunities are, to help guide curriculum in the schools, and to get involved in other training and other sorts of programs designed to get people into the digital economy. And then finally, to be a direct voice speaking to the global community, to make sure that the world understands what's happening in Cayman, and that what's going on here is very, very exciting.
Exciting indeed, right?
I mean, these guys have summed it up pretty much, but from my perspective, it's just exciting to be part of this, and I really want to see the tech industry grow on the island, and a lot more like-minded people. I think it's going to be fantastic, although I don't know where they're going to put all their hoodies.
Well, gents, let us know if we can help to not just promote the tech talks, but to encourage and nurture more of the evolution into tech, and see our people progress in that area as well. Enjoy the rest of today, and maybe into the weekend is even more productive. All right, to our listeners, please join Mr. Art in the morning for the record. Certainly come back for Talk Today right after the midday news. Got a round table assembled. We won't be talking tech, but we'll certainly be talking a lot. Until then, be blessed.
Talk Today is brought to you by Fidelity Bank. For all your banking needs, visit fidelitygroup.com. Fidelity, we're good for you.